Good evening, buon soiree, and buen dia, audience. JD Animation here, and welcome to my Halloween party. You're here early, so I guess I could tell you a few family stories. All right, let me see here. This first one came from my sister. One night, me and my mom were laying on the couch. She was laying on the other couch. We were watching a movie. Around halfway through the movie, I started to hear scuffles on the carpet. And that's when I heard it. A little girl whispered, "Boo!" And then I heard a laugh in my ear. I was f***ing terrified and paralyzed with fear. And then I froze. I just continued to watch the movie in silence. When getting into bed, I told my mom what had happened, to which my mother replied, "I didn't want to frighten you, but I also heard a little girl whisper, 'Mama,' in my ear tonight." Wow, that was a pretty scary story, am I right, guys? Alright, the party still isn't here, so I guess I could show you a few more. Alright, this next one came from my oldest sister. And it's my favorite because I'm in it. While living in Crystal, Michigan, I was living with my mom, my non-believer boyfriend named Blake, and my younger brother, Jordan. Jordan would always like to stay up and dink around and cause trouble. And Blake was the one who would discipline him usually. So, around 1 in the morning, we heard the bunk bed in Jordan's room squeaking as if someone was jumping on the bed. Blake went into the room to yell at Jordan to knock it off. When I opened the door, Blake realized something. It confused him very much. The room was empty. There was nothing on the bunk beds, nothing. Nobody was in the room. In fact, Jordan was asleep in the master bedroom with our mom. All right, these next stories are from the same person as. All right, these stories are from the same sister as the last story. My oldest sister, Brittany. One night, Blake, myself, and my dog Tank were just sitting down watching TV. At one point, Tank looked out into the dark hallway, and his ears perked up. I turned to look over at Blake, and he looked like he heard something down the hallway too. I didn't see anything in that dark hallway, but I was spooked. So, I patted the bed for Tank to come lay down. Blake asked me the next day if I had heard anything, to which I replied that I hadn't. He told me that he heard an older woman talking to a little girl, and then they disappeared around the time both Blake and Tank looked down into the hall. Or the Crystal House in a different house in Ashley, Michigan, we also had paranormal experiences. There was an eerie feeling in the house, especially at night. We had a German short-haired dog at the time, and my mom had a metal bike planter that was welded together, making it almost indestructible. Somehow the dog had gotten a hold of the bike and broke a piece off. This will come in handy later in the story, but that night I had completely cleaned my room. It was squeaky clean, there was nothing on the floor, everything was in its place, everything was put where it was supposed to. It was the only room upstairs except for an unfinished storage room. When we realized that the bike was broken, Mom had collected the pieces and placed them in a bag and told me to take the broken pieces up to the storage room so it could be attempted to be fixed later. I did what I was told. My mom was working all the time and would leave around 9 p.m. I went to bed later that night with the dog laying next to me. As I was laying in my bed, my free-floating pictures started to move as if wind was blowing them. It spooked me. I felt a little uneasy. The dog didn't make a move, so I just thought I was just being a scaredy cat. After a few moments, I felt a smack on my back. After finally working up the courage, I decided that I would get up and run to the light. Because obviously, when the lights are on, a ghost couldn't attack. Duh! I leaped out of the bed and ran to the light switch. When the lights turned on, when I turned the light on, I noticed that the metal pieces were somehow on my floor, on my completely cleaned room. No one else was home. I was the only one who entered upstairs, and the scariest part was the door was closed. How did that piece get in my room? I'll never know. I don't even think I slept a wink that night. When my mom got home, I was waiting for her at the door. The first thing out of her mouth was, "You looked like you just seen a ghost." When I was younger, I was living with my grandma, who wasn't in the best of health. She ended up passing away around a year or two with me living with her. Her funeral was about 3 weeks out after her death due to her family living far away. The night before the funeral, my sister came over to stay with me so that way we could get ready together. We went to bed, and that night, I had a dream that my grandmother came to me in her pajamas, and she told me that she had to go. She was sorry. She didn't tell me, but she knew that I would be the one to keep her here. I was awoken and spooked, of course, so I decided to turn the TV on and fall back asleep. When my alarm went off the next morning, I immediately woke Hunter up. The first thing that she asked me was, "Who was here last night?" I was stunned. So I asked her what she meant. She said, "Last night, before you turned on the TV, you and someone were talking at the end of the bed, and then they just left." I hadn't told Hunter a single thing, and immediately my eyes started to well with tears because I was so frightened. My grandma had come to say goodbye to me one more time. Oh, looks like the party's here. Alright then. Alright guys, I'm glad you all came to the party, and I will see you all in my next video. Have a happy Halloween!